Alright guys, so today's video is kind of a first look at the brand new EarFun Air Pro 2 because they're not officially going to be released until August the 31st. But I wanted to go ahead and do this video because they already have them up on their site and they have a pre-order sale that instead of picking them up for the $80 price tag, you can actually get these for only $56. And I think the features that these have and the upgrades that they made are pretty significant. And I think being able to pick them up for $56 was definitely worth going ahead and talking about them. But we're gonna talk about the features that these have. We're gonna see what all comes inside the box. We're gonna talk about the sound and see why I think it's worth the $80. And I kind of think it's a no-brainer at the $56. But let's go ahead and start with the design of these because the original EarFun Air Pro was basically a clone of the Edifier, I think it's the NB2s. And there's some other brands out there in the market that had that same straight edge type design where they had the stem kind of come down and it kind of resembled the Cybertruck. And so EarFun decided to kind of go back even further and go to their original design of the EarFun Airs. It's more rounded, you still have that stem style design, and this is a very comfortable earbud to use. As far as anything else that they've upgraded, the drivers, now instead of just being a normal 10mm composite dynamic driver, they've now upgraded that to a titanium composite dynamic driver. And in my opinion, this is a much tighter driver. Everything feels a little bit more cleaned up, but we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the sound. Now, as far as the active noise canceling on this pair, this is where there is definitely a huge difference over the original EarFun Air Pros because this is a noise canceling pair of earbuds, and I always felt like the original ones just really didn't cancel out a lot of noise, and I didn't think that was a huge selling point on that pair. And now they're using what they're calling their QuietSmart 2.0 hybrid active noise canceling. So instead of blocking up to 38 decibels, which is what they claimed on the originals, now these block up to 40 decibels. But in my opinion, and I don't know what it is, it could just be the way the design fits a little bit better in my ear, these block out a lot more sound than the originals did. So instead of just, slightly blocking out air conditioner units and engine noises, this pair does that even better, but it also blocks out talking a lot more. So if you're gonna use them like in an office environment or even just using them at home where a TV may be playing, these do a really good job of blocking out all of those surroundings. Now this pair does have 3 different modes that you can switch them between. You do have the active noise canceling mode, which we just talked about. There's a normal mode, which basically turns your noise canceling off. And then there is an ambient mode. And the ambient mode on here, another thing that they upgraded is they now have a wind reduction mode. So if you've ever used an ambient mode or a transparency mode, you notice that the mics do turn on and you can hear your surroundings. But if it's a windy day, those microphones are picking that up, which makes it very hard to hear your surroundings because all you're hearing is a lot of wind noise. So they focused on that on this pair, and it does a really good job of doing that as well. I didn't feel like everything sounded too processed or digital, so it was really easy to carry on a conversation or hear cars or anything that I needed to hear without actually taking the earbuds out. Now this pair has upgraded to now using Bluetooth 5.2, but it still only supports AAC and SBC playback. So there's still no aptX playback on here. Some people, that just immediately makes them not interested, but there are some companies that don't want to pay to get that aptX certification. So this pair, in my opinion, basically mimics a pair that has that aptX technology, but it just doesn't have it slapped on the box because I didn't notice any kind of compression in my audio. I did not have any lag or delay when it came to movies or videos. And I also did not really experience any kind of lag with gaming. I think if it was, it had to be minimal. And sometimes it's just really hard to tell. And again, that's a good thing because it means that the latency is just that low. Now, as far as using these outdoors, they still have the same IPX5 rating, which basically means you can use these at the gym, you can use them by the pool. It's not gonna matter if they get splashed on or rained on. The only thing you wanna make sure not to do is submerge these into water. Now, as far as what all they've included inside the box, you actually get 6 sets of silicone ear tips. There's basically a set that they call set A and set B. And the only thing that I really notice as far as the design wise that's different between the two is it seems as though one has a wider opening, and there is a noticeable difference when it comes to the sound signature because the wider opening in my opinion, had a lot more bass. And the one that was slightly smaller seemed to tighten that up a little bit and focus a little bit more on the mids and the treble. And as far as the charging cable being used this time, it's still a USB-C cable. But another huge upgrade is the case on these is now a Qi wireless charging case. That was one of my complaints in the original ones. So that is a huge upgrade in my opinion, because I just like to come in, sit my case on a wireless charger and just have it start charging. And speaking of the charging, the battery life on these is very interesting, because on the earbuds themselves, the battery life actually went down. But as far as the overall battery life using the case, that went up. And it's very minimal, but I think the reason for that is these are doing a much better job of canceling out noise, and they're also using a titanium driver, which might actually draw a little bit more power. But the earbuds themselves on these, you're going to get 7 hours. You're going to get 34 hours total using the case. Now that is with the noise canceling off. If you decide to just use these with the noise canceling on, you're still going to get 6 hours on the earbuds and 30 hours using the case. Where on the originals, you were getting 9 hours on the earbuds and 32 hours using the case with the noise canceling off, and you were getting 7 hours on the earbuds and 25 hours with the noise canceling on. Now these do have the same fast charge feature that the original ones had, where a 10-minute charge is going to get you around 2 hours of use. And in the case on these, like I said, it is much smaller, or at least feels smaller to me. On the back, you have your USB-C input for charging. Around on the front, you have that one single indicator light, and that way you can kind of gauge how much battery life is left on the case. Now moving over to the earbuds themselves, the earbuds on the outside is an all glossy design, and because these use touch controls, it does actually show quite a bit of fingerprints. Now some people may not care about that, but it is something I wanted to point out. And another thing about this pair is they do have these smart sensors, so if you take them out, it will just automatically pause, and then it just resumes once you put them back in. And going back to the controls, I'm happy to say that this pair now controls everything, because the one thing lacking from the original ones is it did not have volume control. But now on this pair, you have your play, pause, the ability to skip forward, go backwards, your volume control, and also being able to switch between your ANC, your normal, and your ambient mode. So I'm very happy to see that they decided to make that decision. And then as far as you guys that like to use your earbuds individually, you'll be happy to know that you can use either the left or the right. And I also think the microphones on here have been improved quite a bit. This one's just doing a better job of focusing in on my voice, and it does a really good job of blocking out a lot of the noises around me. But you guys can be a judge by listening to a test here. Alright guys, so here is a mic test using the EarFun AirPro 2. One thing I do want to point out about these is they do seem to be pretty sensitive. It seems to have my volume a little louder than some other earbuds, but this is what it would sound like if you were to take a call. And so now here is a mic test with the crowd noise being played, which you can hear here. And so this is what it would sound like if you were to take a call in public. So now let's talk about the sound. The sound on these are very aggressive. They are big, it's boomy, it's bright. I would pretty much say it is an in-your-face sound. It's not trying to hold anything back. And I like having pairs like this because using them in the gym or just using them in general, if you just want to be able to get the most bass out of something or just have this really bright treble and not feel like an earbud is just trying to balance all of that out or flatten that out. This pair is just saying, no, we're gonna turn everything up as much as possible. And the bass on these, even though it's really big and boomy, it's still not sloppy. It's not just rolling over the mids and the highs. You're able to feel that impact, but still be able to hear every detail of the vocalists or the cymbals on the drums or violins. This pair, it's really crazy how they're able to make this work with a lot of different genres, but somehow, because the treble is pretty bright on this pair, details just had no problems coming through. And the one thing that's really affected, in my opinion, is the soundstage and sound imaging. Although I did not have any issue with being able to tell where sounds were coming from, In the noise canceling mode, because it is slightly more boomy than just having the noise canceling turned off, it does cause the sound to close in a little bit. So it still kind of made me feel like I was in a medium-sized room. It didn't make me feel as open as a lot of other earbuds, but when I switched it over into normal mode, it seemed to kind of pull the bass back a little bit, and it opened up the sound a little bit more. So I do like the fact that you have both of those options. If you don't need to use the noise canceling and you want a little bit more clarity and a little bit more open space in your audio, it's nice to just switch that over into normal mode and be able to get that. So as great as I think these are, I do still have some cons with these. Not having aptX playback is going to be a turnoff for some people. Not having an EQ option might also turn off people that don't want that really big, boomy, aggressive sound. And really the only other thing that I would change about these is sometimes, depending on what I was listening to, I still at times felt like I wanted one more notch to go up when it came to the volume. Now, this is not a quiet pair, but I did find at times I was listening at full volume and still just wanted that one more notch. So if you're just somebody that likes to listen to music loud all the time, this may not be the pair for you. But outside of that, this pair is going to appease a lot of people. It does have that consumer-friendly U-shaped sound signature. Not even necessarily U-shaped, because the mids are bumped up a little bit more than they are in other pairs. I did feel like vocalists were a little more up front, and I know that they did that because everything else is turned up, and you don't want to lose the vocalist, because what's the point of listening to a song if you can't hear what they're actually trying to say? But guys, that's my video on the EarFun AirPro 2. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.